Welcome to another episode of Cleats and Coffee on the Cruz Coaching Podcast. Today we have a special guest. This is Chay Hubbard. I'm a professional player. She played in Europe. I cannot say the names of your club. I can't any of them. So can you give us a bit of an introduction?
Last year, I was playing for Ferencvárosi.
How you say it?
Ferencvárosi.
I gotta like roll your tongue and everything with that.
You can't. I mean, yeah, I think it's Ferencvárosi. It took me like the whole year to learn how to pronounce it, but it was great though. I played there for the last year, and the year before I played in Iceland. Vulgar. I don't even know if I'm saying that right.
Like, is there like an easier way?
I mean, we FTC Fraudy the FTC.
So I guess this is your second time on the Cruz Coaching Podcast. It's
I
a
guess
little
it
bit
is.
different now because we have Lee here with us.
Lee.
And now I would like to say that you're like a full-fledged professional player, especially since you won a trophy as well too. So things are a little bit different. What have you been up to and all that? Let's talk a little bit about your life now.
So right now we're in a little bit of a pickle. So I just had surgery 3 weeks ago on my left foot. I had a bunch of stuff going on in there, like plantar fascia, my nerves, everything. Anyways, So current situation is we're gonna do rehab. We're gonna get right, and then we're gonna shoot for the summer window. So shoot for the summer, yeah, which I think should be good because that's when clubs are looking for people anyways, and that'll give me enough time to like push myself in. So right now I have to lock in. Like it's time to lock in. My ultimate goal is to play in Europe again. Like I would love to play in Italy, but I would love to play in Europe. I do.
I would love to hear your perspective on like what was it like the first time you just got a contract.
Mm-hmm.
You are on your first flight to Europe. You don't know what to even expect. What was on your mind at that time?
Oh, so the first time when I went to Iceland, which is technically Europe, I had never been out of the country actually, so I didn't know what to expect. And like, cause I got a call from the club, and I was on a plane within the week, so it happened really fast. But I remember being on the plane, like I had no idea what to expect. I kind of had just an open mind and was kind of just amazed at just the difference in like lifestyle. Like,
so you had zero expectations at all?
Honestly, no, because I'd never been out of the country. Yeah, I had no idea what to expect.
Were you scared? Were you nervous a little bit?
Just a little bit. I don't think I was scared, but I knew of a couple teammates that I was going to be teammates with. I knew of them from playing against them in college, so that was comforting to know that I would know of someone and have a little bit of familiarity. But yeah, it was just kind of just go in with an open mind.
So like, since you are a professional let's say you are professional, you have professional experience in Europe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us a little bit of an example of what that life is like?
Like my day to day, or like just the like.
Maybe not so much the day to day, but what should players expect?
Expect to adapt. I think that's my biggest thing, because especially in Hungary, not that many people know English, and if they do, it's very, very broken. So you kind of have to adjust like your communication style and just that kind of thing. Food is different, transportation is different. A lot of things are just different. So you just kind of have to just go in with an open mind, like I said, and learn to adapt, I think, and just kind of take things for what they are.
To adapt.
Yeah.
It's such a high level skill.
And
it's the strongest will survive. Survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
I think so, because a lot of things are different. You kind of just have to take things for what they are. Like, this is the culture here. Okay, like I kind of have to, you can't expect for what you were used to doing in America to fly in Europe all the time.
So like, what was the most unexpected thing then?
Ooh, unexpected? Oh, my coach not really speaking great English. Yeah, like it was, I don't know, like
was there a translator on your team?
We had a translator on the team, but like in the middle of trainings, like you hear him yell out something and you're just looking around, like trying to pick up on cues and pick up on what your teammates are doing.
What about like tactically, like halftime? How are you gonna received information and then incorporated into the second half?
So we did have a translator for that. So like we would go into halftime, we'd have our group of, we had 6 internationals, and so our English is our prominent or primary language.
Mhm.
She would translate, and then we kind of just adjust from there. The hardest part was expressing how we felt to our coach because he didn't understand English as well either. So that was kind of a barrier.
Study Hungarian? Did you try and
A
Did you pick up
a little bit. Hungarian is actually one of the hardest languages to learn. Yeah. So it was kind of hard, but
So, like, I guess in Iceland as well, did you also have a
they speak good English there, no?
like they learn in school.
They learn
So in Hungary, they learn in school, but not everyone. So like I had older teammates, closer to their 30s who didn't know any English at all. So it's just kind of like depends on, and then some spoke really good English. So
and like so you did win a trophy. You had a full season there, right?
Mhm.
What was that like
It was
to just win? Like professional title.
It was a bit surreal because the game that we did win, we were in the men's stadium. And it was a night game. So it was like a bunch of people there, and like it was loud and like confetti and just trophies. So it was a bit of a surreal feeling, I think.
Like, was that like the largest game ever been in or no?
Yeah, really. Yeah, it was to win the Hungarian title,
Yeah.
really. And because we had to win in order to make it to Champions League. So it was kind of a big situation. So
Let's kind of dive into that.
Yeah, the
Because
Champions
we
League.
talked about this, and your team made it into the Champions League, and this was a dream of yours. That didn't happen because of your injury. You were with the team, but you didn't play. Like being injured and stuff. Like, how did all that make you feel and all that? Yeah.
I mean that it was hard.
Yeah.
I think it was kind of toward the beginning of me being out of my injury.
Mhm.
So sitting on the bench, it's like you want to be in the game. You're just kind of sitting there because you can't participate. But you just have to kind of put those feelings aside and just kind of recognize that you're a part of something bigger than just yourself, and just kind of put your energy into cheering your teammates on and like being who they need you to be in that situation. So during the game, like I think it was fine, but after it was a bit of a tough situation because you work all your life to make it to the Champions League. So
That's like the hardest thing in the game.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you work so hard, and then in a moment, it's like
Taken.
it's just taken away, and you're just like, okay, I just have to just sit here and wait.
you just yeah, it's like you control the controllables,
Right.
and if there was nothing else I could have done at that point, so it's just you kind of have to take it for what it is and embrace just being there, I guess, because that's a blessing in and of itself. So yeah.
Like, besides, what's like the main reason you want to continue playing in
Europe specifically,
your Pacific?
I just think the lifestyle is kind of football. I say football because that's what they call soccer there.
Right.
It's just football centric.
Football, man. Always football.
I've gotten so used to saying soccer. I don't.
Sometimes I have to catch myself. No, it's football.
Me saying football now sounds weird. Sounds
Yeah.
Well, that's how I felt coming back saying soccer. I really couldn't
Oh,
say it. It was like kind of weird.
You grew up playing soccer.
You mean football?
What do you feel like is the difference between the American half of the game and then the European half of the game right now?
I think the
Is there a
American
difference?
there is a difference. There is, but I think it's growing to be sort of similar. I think than 10 years ago or whatever. In the women's side, at least, I think there was a big difference in the American side and the European side.
Mhm.
But I've noticed the conception that American soccer is a lot more physical than European soccer. I don't know if that's the case because our games got pretty rough.
Physical, yeah.
Yeah. So
I think when people say that, what I think they mean is
My mic's been off.
the actual,
okay.
like, not the shoulder to shoulder, the actual
Uh-huh.
physicality, but like the physical attributes that are within certain players, like the speed, the
Mhm.
power, the athleticism. I think that's where.
yeah, and that's pretty evident. Yeah, because Americans would be, I would say, more athletic
But
than
what would you-
Europeans. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
What would you say is kind of like Coach Cruz? What would you say is the biggest difference between women's soccer here in America versus Europe?
The technical aspect in America is growing so much, but I think it's so embedded in the youth systems, the technicality and stuff, so that when you're at a professional level, like everyone can ping a ball with both feet, like everyone can, do all these different things. So that's one thing. Even if you're not athletic or the best football player ever, they can do these certain like technical aspects in the game.
Did you feel any pressure at all?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit of pressure?
Coming in, so I don't know if people know this, but there's a limited amount of non-EU passport spots on a European team. So if you are, fortunate enough to secure one of those spots, you're expected to be one of the best players on the team because they're putting money and time into that. And you're essentially coming in to make an impact on the team. So that, there was a little bit of pressure in that, just coming in knowing that you're expected to make a difference and like be a big part of what they're trying to do. So
Is there a stigma towards American players? Like, she's American.
Football wise, I'm not sure, but in general, just as like in lifestyle, people can point out Americans like pretty easily.
So I feel like it might be different for the female half of the game, because I think that the U.S. women's national team has done so well that most times American women or the American players would be better than the European.
Or Americans are more like athletic in that sense. You can usually tell when you go to a European team. So, but it's usually a good stigma, I would think, in that sense. But I've heard opposite things on the men's side. So,
what's the big difference?
I think it boils down to like the quality of it. Like the European men are just better.
Yeah,
and then it's not much you can say. Like,
All right. So, hey, man. So, Chay, what's like next for you? What advice would you have for any player who wants to play in Europe? Like, what should they expect or aim for? Would you think for an American player, especially with all of the teams here now and the leagues and everything,
right,
is going to Europe a good choice at the moment? I also seeing a lot of the players in the NWSL at the moment are actually moving over to Europe. So like,
my opinion, I think you can grow in different ways playing in Europe than you can here. Not to say one is better than the other. I just think you can grow in different aspects of your game. At least I did specifically. So I think you can look at it that way. But also in Europe, because there are so many different teams, it's kind of important or crucial what team you're playing on, I guess, because there usually is a first division in every country, but every country is not equal in terms of, the quality. So I think that's something you have to kind of pay attention to.
So like, do you think it's important, especially if the player is not like well known or something, right? Do you think it's important for them to just get in that professional system? Because I always feel like once you get in, you have more leverage, I guess, the next.
I think it's better to play than to not play, right? So if you have the option or the situation where
even if it's
play
a terrible club, or like it's a club that you probably won't make a lot of money or something like that,
Money wise, I wouldn't even think about, to be honest. Like if your goal is to play. That's kind of my mindset on it, because I was, y'all know this, I'm not on a team for months at a time, after college and after figuring out the pro thing, and getting back to playing on a team is kind of hard. So I think my personal advice is it's better to play than to not play if your goal is to play long term.
If we could talk a little bit about that, like, so you didn't get drafted. How did you still get to the point where you're like, this is still it for me? I'm still gonna chase this.
Yeah. So after the draft, oh no, go ahead.
There's a lot of girls who are unaware of like this part of the game. Like the draft isn't the only option.
I do feel like a lot of players don't know that there's so many leagues that they're unaware of in different parts of the world.
Well, so now they got rid of the draft now, so that kind of changes things a little bit. But back when the draft did happen with me, so it was a little odd because they had this thing called discovery players at the time, which is when they kind of adopted adopt your rights, your player rights, basically. So Portland had my discovery right, so that's where I kind of ended up for a little while. So it was just a matter of what was the best fit for me at the time. So yeah. And I mean, I think playing overseas too it's an option, obviously, but I think it can be a bit intimidating, especially for people who haven't been out of the country. It's like, I'm going to pack my bags and go live in a country for not that much money to play, and it's a bit intimidating. But I think once you go, at least in my situation, like your mind is just kind of opened, and like you experience things, you grow as a person even outside of just playing in general. So
like, if there was anything that you could change looking back, what would it be? Like the process from going to college into professionally, like is there anything that you feel like could have been better?
I have two answers to that. As far as technical wise, like playing soccer, there are certain things that I would focus more on, I think, at the college level. And then aside from the college level, I think I would just be aware of the process. I didn't know the process of playing overseas or doing anything until
actually having the necessary education around
knowing what's going on. Really, I didn't know what was going on until I was experiencing it, which could have, I could have made different decisions at that point if I would have known, I guess, like what agents have, like that kind of thing. Because I mean, you do have to have certain resources in order to get to where you want to get, and connections and things like that. Yeah.
So like in the past, like, let's say you spend a lot of time in Europe. Europe changed you in any way?
Changed me. It's developed me, I think. But I think more like European or something.
I just need to know if you have changed in any way. Like, has your perspective on anything changed and stuff like that? Yeah.
I think just life in general, the beauty of small things and just life. Like being in Budapest, for example, like it's like a mix between the Eastern Europe vibe and then like the Westernized Europe culture. So you kind of see like a little bit of everything. Like you meet different people, and it's just kind of like you take public transportation everywhere. Like some of the buildings are old, but it's like they're kind of nice also at the same time. Like you just have a new like perspective, I guess, and like seeing how other people live their lives, and it kind of humbles you in a sense, because in America we like to buy things a lot, and we like the newest things all the time, and it's like they don't really, I don't want to say they in general, but like
it's just not the way of life.
Yeah, it's just not the way of life, I guess. Yeah.
Did you ever get homesick?
Not really.
You didn't miss your family?
I kind of FaceTime, guys. FaceTime.
I know there's a lot about watching this podcast.
Not really. I talk to my parents a lot. Like you just, I mean, and also the lifestyle is you have training for, soccer obligated things for 4 or 5 hours a day, and then the rest of the day, like
you're like relaxed,
exploring the city, going to
life.
Exploring different coffee shops, reading books, meeting people. I just learned to just enjoy life, I guess, as cliche as that sounds.
On the professional lifestyle, like from the outsider's point of view, it looks so cool. Like, is it as cool as what it actually is? Do you have more free time? Are you at the facility training a lot more? Like,
I mean, you're putting more time into your craft than I would say, like, in club or whatever. But I mean, you don't have school, you don't have to work unless you want to. So like, you're not going to be training for 9 hours in a day. So you do have a little bit more time to kind of recover your body and things like that.
When you were in Europe, especially when you were in season and everything, did you do any extra work outside of like practices and stuff with the team? Did you do extra work? A lot of extra work?
Yeah.
Why?
So you said why?
Yeah, why?
Just to get better.
Because I get the feeling that a lot of people feel like as soon as you reach professional, it's like, okay, it's over with, but you got to keep working, right?
Right. And on that note, also, like I had teammates, and a lot of professional teams have players who are older, like pushing 30s, over 30s, and it's like to see people still get better at that age. It's kind of like it's kind of inspiring. So it's like I'm only 25 now, so like there's so much more that I can still grow to and get to. So like young people, like younger people, like you do.
Was it difficult to make like connections and stuff? Like with your teammates? With your teammates, because from all over the world and stuff. Yeah, they're from all over the world.
A little bit, because I'm not your typical like, I'm gonna go talk to everyone that I see type of person, anyways. But the language barrier.
I get that vibe from you though.
Oh, that's my vibe.
I feel like she's so open and just like she's so easy to talk to and stuff. Yeah.
That's trust, like you guys. But
Yeah.
the language barrier you have to keep in mind.
Mine
So
too,
like, yeah, I was talking to one of my American friends actually on my team, and it's like we were talking about how we're not gonna able to truly know our teammates, even if they speak English or whatever. It's like because their personality is gonna flourish in their own language, you know. So it's like
you'll only ever truly understand them once you truly understand their language, because they're giving you the 5% of themselves that then vocabulary that they have in English.
So that takes time, I think. So just to kind of like get to know someone as much as you can within those like limits, I think. But we had my second half of being in Budapest, we had more English speakers, I guess. So that was nice to be able to like just have friends really and talk.
Well, Shay,
I have another question.
Go ahead.
I have another one. It's on like playing at the highest level. Like you obviously played very, very high level collegiate football, soccer here in America. But what is the difference between that and playing at the highest level, the professional level? Like what is that next step?
So it's interesting because like I was saying, like the different countries in Europe, like there's different levels. Some of the levels in Europe are similar to the high level Division 1 level. So that's like something that I don't think people think about. But once you get like past that barrier and you're like, oh, this is professional, it's just like little things don't fly, like the technique, like that kind of thing. It's just like it's expected, if that makes sense. Our coach is funny. He does these like passing patterns. He calls them ball coordinations, and they were kind of hard. I'm gonna have to draw them out because it's pretty like everyone very intricate, and like people wouldn't be scared for training. They'd be scared for our passing patterns because they were like insane. Yeah, it's very like high level.
Do you think him making it so difficult was necessary?
I don't think it was necessary, but it kind of exposed like high level thinkers and like how to just apply what you're learning, I guess, if that makes sense.
Do you think the average IQ of an American player is higher than the European?
I don't know. Well, from my personal experience from the teams I've played in and the Americans that I've played with, I think the IQ is very similar. But then again, I haven't played in like the Women's Super League in England or anything, so I don't know at that level. But what I've seen, I think it's pretty similar. But I think you see IQ from younger players in Europe that I don't see in America very much. Like, because we had a couple academy players like train with us, and like their IQ is actually very, even if they can't like execute it, their IQ is there. Yeah.
So I guess this is the last question I'll have for you. What would be like your ideal situation or your goals for the rest of your career? Like, are you even seeing or thinking that far ahead?
I personally, I don't think I've hit my potential. Like, I don't think I've hit my prime, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, soccer-wise, I've kind of dealt with injury over the years, even in college, just back to back.
I feel like you can deal with it. Shit, I feel like you played every minute,
I did through injury. I dealt with injury, like a similar injury in my other foot, my freshman and sophomore year. I had to get surgery on that foot also. But anyways, so I don't think I personally hit my like prime as a soccer football player. So I think that's kind of my goal, is just to get my body to where it needs to be and like get my technique and everything right to where I can just get to the potential that I know that I still have, if that makes sense.
Do you know what that is?
Not necessarily. No.
I'll ask the question.
Okay, go ahead.
You have it within yourself to play at the next World Cup. What steps do you think you have to take to make that dream a reality?
A tough question.
It's a tough question, but to begin with, like applying like discipline, first of all, like establishing your goal, which if that's my goal, which it is, okay, now what's the next step is to be disciplined in everything that I do, my diet, my training, like everything, controlling everything that I can control, and then just kind of seeing what goes from there. So that's kind of like
what's in your country. Is it wise? I guess this is not only a question for you, but do you guys think it's wise to think that far ahead or no? Do you think it's wise?
It's funny because me and my family, we had a whole discussion about long-term big goals and small goals, kind of. Half of my family had the idea that it's good to have small goals.
Yeah.
And half of my family had the notion that it's not good to have small goals or else it'll limit you from reaching your bigger goals. And so like the way I view it personally is it's good to have like small expectations or like things that you need to achieve in order to get to the big goal, I think, but I think having something as a small thing as your ultimate goal can limit your like potential, if that makes sense.
So this is going back again, right? And I asked, what would be your ideal situation? Is there a specific team, a specific league, or you just dream of or something? Like, what is your dream scenario that this is the team I would love to play for? And
See, I don't have. There's not a specific team.
Manchester City.
I was just gonna say, like, long-term goal, Manchester City. Like, yeah, that's my favorite team. But like, I think I define success like different. I think than a lot of people do. Like, I think it's kind of not necessarily where you end up, but how you get there. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like, just because you didn't, I don't know, play for this team instead of this team that you failed, I don't necessarily see things as like that, if that makes sense. So I guess like my ultimate goal, I guess, and what I would love to do is play in Italy. I think that would be like great, like in Serie A, like that would be like,
that'd be awesome.
That would be like the ideal situation. But if I end up in a top league in another great country, like I wouldn't see that as like, oh, I didn't meet my goal necessarily. That's just how I see it personally.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So Chay, I think that was the end of the podcast there, but thank you for coming on. I wish you the best in your career. You are an amazing person, and I just want the very best for you. Okay?
Thank you, guys.
We really appreciate it. So we'll see you guys on the next episode of Cleats and Coffee. Peace out.